Good afternoon, and thank you very much on behalf of Veterans in Politics. Today, we have Michele Fiore. Let me just give you a brief background on how this works. You can't debate yourself. No, that's always in my script if we have more than one. So I just wanted to say you can't debate yourself. How we'll start off is each one of the panel members will give a 30-second bio about ourselves, and then we'll turn it over to you, and you can give a 2-minute introduction of yourself. And then each panel member will have opportunities to ask you questions. Once a panel member asks you a question, then you'll have 1 minute and 30 seconds to respond. And then once the question and answer period is over, then you'll be given a 2-minute conclusion so that you can let people know why they should vote for you, why you're the best candidate, and also give campaign contact information about yourself. So I'll go ahead and start. I'm Jim Jonas, Director of Veterans of Politics. I also co-host the podcast with Steve Sanson, and that's pretty much all there is to know about me.
I am Leah Yulianti. I am the president of Active Republican Women of Las Vegas, a business owner and an esthetician.
My name is Robert Faust. I am a third generation VFW. I was after Vietnam. I was involved in acting, radio, TV. I played baseball professionally for about 10 years, and I spent 4 years in the penitentiary for marijuana smuggling.
Wow. Well, thank you for your service. Okay. So I'm Michele Fiore.
I forgot about the lapels. I apologize.
Oh, no worries. No worries. I'm Michele Fiore. I am your city councilwoman for Ward 6, your Republican National Committee woman for the state of Nevada, former assemblywoman for District 4 out in the Northwest, and now soon to be your state treasurer. I'm running to be your state treasurer. I have 2 beautiful grown daughters, Sheena, who's 32, and Savannah, who's 28, and both of them have given me 7 grandchildren from 1 to 11. Big family girl. I take care of my mom. There's a lot of work to be done as a council person, as a Republican National Committee woman, and as a candidate. Being in touch constantly with our constituents is number one. Having many events. We have about 30 to 35 events per year. And that's been going on since I first started running. From pasta dinners in my house to meeting the Easter Bunny and taking pictures with him on April 16th this year, and finding eggs full of great candy.
All right. Well, I'll start off by asking the first question that you've answered probably 17 million times now, but I'm going to ask it again anyway, so you get back on the record again. So originally you announced you were going to run for Nevada governor.
Yes.
And then you switched to wanting to run for treasurer. It's kind of a 2-part question. Number 1, why did you make that decision? And number 2, what qualifies you in particular to be the Nevada state treasurer?
Thank you so much for the question. And no, in my heart and soul, I want to be your governor. I want to be your governor. As the Republican National Committee woman, the weekend of March 12th and 13th, and then Monday the 14th, we polled every state constitutional race in the Republican primary. And then the person that was leading in the Republican primary, we polled that person against the Democratic individual in the general. And this year will be a sweep for Republicans. The state treasurer's race was an issue. We've done a lot of background research, opposition research on some of the candidates. Come to find out they're just not qualified. You can't run for treasurer and have judgments against you, bankruptcies, stuff like that, or, lawsuits about age discrimination and things, things to that nature. So as we were meeting with the whole Republican state team and some of Trump's team and 2 folks out of Florida, they were via Zoom. and we looked at the governor's race, we had 15 Republicans in it. That's not including the Libertarians and Independents and the Democrats. 15 Republicans. And we polled it, and then we polled a couple of different scenarios in the general. And the lead person will take the general by about 8 points. So it will be a Republican governor this coming November. So as my team said to me, Michelle, you know, we need to look at the state treasurer. It is your wheelhouse. Maybe take a step back. And, you know, as a team, we make these decisions. So like I said, I want to be your governor. However, today is not the day. So we had to check our ego, take a step back and file for state treasurer. Now what qualifies me to be your state treasurer? 31 years of public and private finance, 10 in the public from state budgets to city budgets, 31 in private businesses. And I've also hired 2,000 Nevadans in 31 years with all of the companies that I've opened. So, state treasurer, when you look at that, and you look at just one of many of their duties as our, you know, making sure our college funds are in great shape. Both of my kids will finish their degrees, and the 32-year-old who's almost 33, May 16th, she walks across the UNLV stage on her 5th degree. This degree is a bachelor's in American Sign Language. Both of my children will finish college no matter what it is, even if they continue to go to master's and or their doctorate, they will have zero debt. Because when they were in my tummy, I planned, we invested. And same with my grandchildren. I have 7 so far. One of the greatest things I think a parent or a grandparent can give their children and grandchildren is the gift of education by being smart, investing, and making sure their future stays bright.
Okay, so here's my question. Do you think you have the experience on financial management experience more than your opponent, Manny Cass?
Absolutely. Number one, I'm running for the state treasurer. And since you brought my opponent up, I don't know if you know anything about my opponent. How do I say? If you're going to be the state treasurer, you shouldn't have judgments against you. You shouldn't have a bankruptcy. You shouldn't borrow money from your family and then throw them into bankruptcy. You should pay your bills. You shouldn't have a $93,000 deficient rent payment for something that you rented and didn't pay the landlord. You need to be financially and fiscal responsible, which the opponent in the Republican Party, he might have a great smile and some suave, but sorry, state treasurer, absolutely not. You know, he's a party guy. So if you want to have a party, that's who you call.
So, Michelle, what do you think is the crux point of being a treasurer? You know, the focal point. And how long do you plan to be treasurer?
I'm sorry. So, can you repeat? I didn't hear 2 words.
Okay.
What's the what point?
What is the focal point?
Focal point. Okay.
Of being a treasurer for you? And how long do you plan to be treasurer?
Thank you for the question, Robert. And for the record, thank you for your service as well. So the treasurer's position is a 4-year term. And so I'm running to be your treasurer, and we would have another election in three years, and then the 4th year. Our sitting treasurer has been serving for 3 years. So with this election, I'm committed to being your treasurer for the term. If I want to run for re-election, then it would be another 4-year term. One of the things that my focal point as the treasurer will be is, first and foremost, we need to audit a lot of the bank accounts. So as the treasurer, you constantly transfer funds from one account to another account. You have advisors. You look at where our money will serve us best and how we can make sure that we are on a monetary growth spurt. There's been treasurers in the past that have lost in excess to 50 million of our taxpayer dollars, up to 300 million of our taxpayer dollars. It's unnecessary. Why do I say it's unnecessary? Because there's a lot of, everything's a risk, but there's a lot of things that we can invest in as a state that are not risk, and you will not lose the taxpayer's dollar. So focal point audit, where our money is, what's working, what's not working. Look at the folks in the department, make sure that they are up to speed and friends weren't just hired, because that's part of the issues that we have right now in that Treasury's office. Is there's lawsuits going on for age discrimination. So there's a cleanup. So the first focal point is cleaning up, auditing, cleaning up, and growing and looking at a lot of opportunities.
You mentioned the personnel at the Treasury Department. Is there enough people there, or do you need to hire some?
I'm going to stay with the standard. Right now, I believe there's 6 positions and then some other positions, and then we also have advisory boards. So one of the things, number one, as a CEO for 35 plus years, anytime I've walked into a company, we have evaluated the company, including the employees that are there now. If we have the greatest employees there, there will be no change. If we have employees, and understand we've done a lot of opposition research on this and this particular treasurer and what has been done. So there will be some changes made, but we will make sure that the changes made are the most experts that we put in place to make sure that our taxpayer dollars go for the benefit of Nevadans.
Okay, so my next question to you, Michelle, and I'll give you plenty of time to answer this because this is kind of a loaded question. So this election cycle, I've heard so many, specifically Republican candidates, say, I'm not a politician, or, they use cute catchphrases like, I'm not a polished politician, I'm not an empty suit politician. But when I asked you why you changed from running for governor to state treasurer, you talked about op research, you got with your team. I think this is one of the things that the public is getting frustrated with, because it seems very calculating to me. And it's basically political science. And so why should we trust you to be, the way you've just described yourself, honestly, is that you are another typical politician. If you wanted to be governor, then why didn't you just stay in the race instead of, doing all this research and getting with teams and then, people from Florida coming in and all these other people talking to you? So why should we trust you to not be just another empty suit politician?
Thank you for the question, James. So number one, as the Republican National Committee woman, you need to look at Republicans as a whole. And when I say look at Republicans as a whole, one of the great things the RNC does is step into states. We pour a lot of money into states, and we back Republican candidates. When we look at everything as a whole, are we going to win or lose certain positions? These are important. Now, if I wasn't the Republican National Committee woman and I didn't have other responsibilities, I could have absolutely stayed in the governor's race and went, very hard on that race. But when you are with the team and you look at what's going on in the Republican primary right now, we need to take a step back. We need to look at the attacks that are going to be coming from each other, from one another, right? Republicans on Republicans. And how is that going to affect the Democrat in the general? So first and foremost, I ride for our brand, period. I am a Republican, a proud Republican woman, and I ride for our brand. So if you think that that's typical, it is absolutely not. It's very selfless. Running for governor or running for state treasurer, it's 2 different things. But running for state treasurer, and when you have the controller, who will also be a Republican, and together the treasurer and the controller can tie the hands of the Republican or a Democrat governor. I mean, you look at what happened in 2015. We had a Republican governor that passed the largest tax increase. I fought against that. I fought hard. In this position as state treasurer, we will have a lot more room to fix that. So it is anything but your typical politician. And all of these catchphrases, oh, I'm not a politician, I'm a regular person. Let me tell you something. When you step into the ring of politics, it is a bloody sport. And what I really suggest to folks that do that is, number one, before I ever ran for office, I volunteered for so many. And I was with the Clark County Republican Party. And I worked my way up and knew the scene. Throughout this last 10 years, as a servant leader, not some rock star, not some, tough girl, as a servant leader, we serve the public. And when you serve the public, you don't disappear. Do you know how many, in 15 years that I've been having my hands in politics behind the scenes and in front of the scenes, do you know how many times I've seen people come out, I'm running for Senate, I'm running for U.S. Senate, I'm running for governor, and then guess what? They lose and they go away, right? These first-time clients, my opponent, never went to a meeting before he wanted to run for office, never did any, we just got done with the Lincoln Day Circuit. That's all about raising money for each county. My opponent, no raising money for the county, no giving anybody a check, no helping. So I see, for the past 15 years, people want to get involved politically, but they don't. They run for office, they lose, and they go away. Where were they before? And where were they after? What's their voting record? How many times have they voted? My opponent says he's lived here, since 2011, 12 years, and he's voted twice in 2 generals, never in a primary, never in a municipality. I'm sorry, what kind of Republican are you? So I ride for the brand, always will, loyal to the brand, and will do what's best for the brand, even if I have to check my own ego and not run for governor.
All right, so my question is somewhat related to what he asked earlier. I wanted to hear your plan about we know that with the stocks and bonds, what's going on with our economy right now is very unstable. So let's hear your plan. What are you going to be doing with the state's money? What do you think that you would do different than Zach that will help with the ROI?
Thank you. Okay, so your ROI, which is your return on investment of what she just said. Number one, once you take over a new position, first and foremost, and I'll say it again, you need to audit the books, audit all the accounts. It's very important because then you're going to see where we're losing money and where we're growing. That's number one. Number two, when you do that, you're going to make a lot of different connections. Are we in this fund because somebody's their friend? And these are things that you really have to weed out. When I tell you we have problems in the treasurer's office, when you take over and get elected, you don't walk into a place and hire someone because they're over 55 and then replace them with a 20-year-old who knows nothing about accounting, but she was cute, right? These are some of the things that are highly concerning to me. Right? So what am I going to do? We're going to audit. We're going to get rid of dead weight, and we're going to invest appropriately with and also with the people that is advising him now. We are going to bring more people in, more different investment firms, just to give them a little competition. And when I say that to you, when we look at, let's say we're investing with Merrill Lynch. We're going to bring in other investors with Merrill Lynch and basically say, okay, compare? What can you do more? And there's many different funds. We can use many different companies for it. But just looking at who's there now and who we can bring in and how we can make sure that we're growing, that's my plan, is to get in, audit, clean up, and make sure we're growing.
I have no other questions.
Thank you, Robert.
All right, Michelle. My next question for you is, and thank you for answering that question about, and you clarified it very clearly as far as looking out for the brand and how involved you've been. And I just want to thank you for being involved in community service in general. Okay.
Thank you.
But my next question to you is, you kept repeating, I look out for the brand. I look out for the brand. So what are you going to do when you're elected Nevada State Treasurer? You do understand that not everybody in the state of Nevada are registered Republicans.
I do.
So are you willing to, are you going to look out for Democrats, independent American? Are you going to look out for all of Nevada? Because it seems to me like you're only focused on Republicans, and the hell with the rest of them.
Thanks again, James, for the question.
Excuse me for saying hell.
Yeah, that's okay. So I'm hoping that your next question will be a bit more positive. So let's be crystal clear here on me, my opponent, and the guy sitting in the office right now. When it comes to protecting Nevadans, and right now we are riding for the Republican brand in this Republican primary. When it comes to protecting Nevadans, Democrats, independents, and libertarians, I'm sorry, but there was no one in this race that stood with me in Bunkerville with the Cowboys who are not Republican. Okay, as an assemblywoman, I believe they're independent and libertarian. No one in this race flew with me to Oregon who some people aren't even registered to vote, okay? They didn't even vote, but there were Nevadans. There were two of our Nevadans that were basically in the Malyard Refuge at gunpoint by the federal government, and me and Franklin Graham drove up and got him out, right? Only I, not my opponent, and they were here in 2014 and 16, or Zach. So yes, I am a Republican woman and proud of it. But when I say I ride for the brand and I protect Nevadans, there's no way you can look at my record and say I do not protect our Democrat constituency, our independent constituency, and our libertarian constituency. And again, my opponents are going to have to put their service where their mouth is, because talk is cheap. Talk is very cheap. And your questions, are, definitely not soft. But I'm glad that you're giving me the opportunity to call out to my opponents on what have they done for all Nevadans.
Okay, so my next question, and thank you, Michelle. That's one thing I do have a lot of respect for you. You are not afraid of answering tough questions. So another thing, too, is you have a lot of experience in the legislature, and you do have a lot of experience. So now, being Nevada State Treasurer, with your legislative experience, one of the things that I find frustrating about the state of Nevada is it seems like everything goes into the general fund. Mm-hmm. So as treasurer, you probably can't do anything specifically about this, but you will have a voice. And would you be willing to reach out to assembly people and state senators to make the general fund more transparent? For example, $185 million comes in from marijuana money, but only $72 million went to education. They said it was all supposed to go to education, but it all went to the general fund. So where's that difference going? Would you be willing to do that?
Absolutely. So thanks for the question, James. So transparency, number one, is the most important thing. And when we talk about transparency, it's very difficult for your average Nevadan to get online and look at the different accounts. There are over 300 accounts. And when you're looking at these accounts, and from public safety to education to real estate, the state of Nevada, I'm going to give you one little example. When I was the majority leader and told our governor, Brian Sandoval, that I wasn't pulling the bill out of the drawer for the commerce tax, and then was removed unprecedentedly I was voted in and then just removed because I would not pull the tax bill out of the drawer. But The first day that I became the first female Republican majority leader, I asked the staff for all the books, line item by line item by line item. Because when you're looking at books, the biggest problem we have here in the state of Nevada is we are not at a zero base to begin with. We are, whatever we spent last session, we're bringing back, we're keeping the same instead of, and that's how a lot of money slips through the cracks. A lot of these things are funded that don't need to be funded anymore. So when I was going line item by line item, I want you to think about this for a minute. PBS was starting a new Ralston show, and Dana Gentry was involved. Dana Gentry, like her, love her, or hate her, she did so much for John Ralston as a media person, and she never gets credit for that. Whether you, like I said, like her, love her, or hate her, she did a lot. In that particular 2015 session, there was a line item where the state was giving PBS $600,000. So basically, they were making John Ralston the lapdog, the voice, when there's so many other people. Look at Sam Shad. Look at you. Look at Sebelius. Do you understand? John Ralston? Come on. And but no one ever calls them out on this. So when I brought this to the attention of Sandoval's chief of staff, I said, I understand what this is. This is the PBS news show that they want to do with John Ralston, and funding John Ralston is not something that we really need. You're looking at raising a tax because you need $1.2 billion for a commerce tax on the backs of small business, but yet you're going to spend $600,000, more than $500,000 on, a media lapdog. That's extremely biased. So they looked at that. Did I get it erased? No. They brought it down to $300,000, which is a problem in itself. So, but these are some of the things, as your treasurer, you need to know and look at and look for. And not just me, but I hired 2 other experts with me on my own dime to be with me as the assemblywoman to make sure all of the bills were gone through before the next day's session. We made notes for all of our conservative Republicans because there's 10 different committees and I'm only on 5. And the other 5, I would give my conservative Republicans little notes and questions to ask if they didn't have an opportunity to go through the bill. These are some of the analytical, detailed things that you need to do as a true servant leader. Don't just go and vote the way your colleagues are voting. Vote and know what you're voting for. Read the bills, know where the money's coming from, and know where it's going.
Is the treasurer in position to help veterans, and how?
Well, there's a lot of different programs. Here, I'm going to give you a great example. When Kenny Gwynn was the governor, we started the Millennial Scholarship, which my 32-year-old got to take advantage of when she was 15. And people forget history. And that's why it's really important to know who was where. So Kenny starts this great scholarship program. And my daughter in 10th grade was able to leave high school, go to CSN, and back then it was CCSN. She got to go to CCSN as a high school student, 11th and 12th grade, finish high school, get her high school diploma, and her first associates, right? Because she kept her grades up. She was a great student. She's a little brilliant child. Anyway, she's not a child anymore. She's married and with kids and a husband and all that. But so just as that program started, we can absolutely look at veteran educational programs. The treasurer's office is open for innovation. So when you say that, that is amazing. And you're going to have to come up with our veterans and maybe start it with me. But amazing. Thank you for saying that.
Okay. All right, Michelle. First off, I want to thank you very much for coming in. And I know some of my questions might have been a little brazen and, but if you're going to seek public office and you've held it, so I know you could handle it.
Thank you.
I do also want to point out that I greatly appreciate it even more because I notice your opponent is not here.
Yeah.
So it's a character thing for me. With that being said, I'll give you 2 minutes or however, try to keep it about 2-3 minutes in closing and just say why you're the best candidate. And you know what to do.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, James and Leah and Robert. Thank you for the questions and spending your morning with me. I know you have other better things to do. But for the folks that are actually watching this, I am Michele Fiore. Politics is a bloody sport. When you hear the cliche, I'm not a politician, or yes, you are. The minute you step into this arena, you are going to be, if you get elected, you're going to be an elected official, and it's a politician. So let's just be truthful on that. But there's a difference between being a servant leader and someone that's in it for themselves. And that is something that I've proven over and over and over again at the detriment of my next election. Understand the stands that I take and do not back down and am unapologetic for. No one else does. When you have my opponents and other folks that run for office or that are in office and they're looking at their next election, that's what they're looking for. When you want an elected official to help you and be in the foxhole with you, that is me. I fight for you and I fight for Nevadans, and I will fight to make sure we stay conservative with our dollars in the state treasurer's office. You can contact me through my website, which is votefiore.com, and Fiore spelled F as in flower, I-O-R-E, votefiore.com. Please volunteer with me, walk with me, call with me. You can also donate to that page. And again, my name is Michele Fiore, running to be your next state treasurer. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Michele. And before everybody claps, I just want to make sure that I say that concludes our endorsement interview for Nevada State Treasurer.
Thank you.
Now everybody can clap.
Thank you.